There has been a crash. Jimmy Lindo has come together with Elliot Norton.
That could have been much worse.
With just 15 minutes left, the pressure is on for drivers to finalize their setups. Van der Sande just clocked 1:14.223. Can they improve on this lap? It looks like Norton is caught up in a significant incident. Now several laps into the session, Greg Sabo looks to refine their line and timing.
Greg is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Here's Dominic Fauvargue weaving through traffic.
I hear he uses socks for driving gloves, you know.
Slipper socks do have a lot of grip after all. Holy moly! That is some serious contact between Phil and Bart van der Sande. Greg's last lap was a 1:15.414, aiming to shave off some seconds here.
As the session progresses, Greg Sabo is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Bottas' Isuzu. Daniel Kosich has set a best lap time of 1:14.549 so far.
Daniel is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
A big impact for Bodkin. Now several laps into the session, Phil Bodkin looks to refine their line and timing.
As the session progresses, Phil Bodkin is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Jimmy's last lap was a 2:01.623, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Well, that is not good. Fat Dog Phil has crashed into the barriers.
At least they've not taken anyone else out.
I hear that Nigel is a pretty keen skier and snowboarder.
He's certainly got a mountain to climb if he wants to do well in this race.
Jack Betting has set a best lap time of 1:14.77, a little bit of contact between Chris and James Allen. Chris Stokes begins their outlap, feeling out the track conditions. James Allen is on their practice outlap, warming up the tyres.
James Allen will be testing the limits, making sure everything's in sync for the faster laps to come.
Now several laps into the session, there has been a crash. Allen has come together with Chris.
That will be one for the stewards to have a look at.
James Allen makes their way through tunnel and pushing the pace. Daniel's last lap was a 2:24.804, aiming to shave off some seconds here.
Daniel is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
What does Rich Snape and Severus Snape have in common?
They both have bottomless disdain for you.
Lol. Noah Euro, they both hate Harry. I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Sabo's Bellett.
That's gonna hurt in the morning.
Stokes is testing the Bellett under more aggressive conditions. Jimmy Lindo has set a best lap time of 1:15.288 so far.
As the session progresses, Jimmy Lindo is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
A big impact for Elliott Norton. The mid-table bandit just clocked 1:15.269. Can they improve on this lap? That's a big accident. Hopefully Daniel Coxis is okay. Now several laps into the session, Jimmy Lindo looks to refine their line and timing.
Jimmy is really starting to push now, analysing every sector for potential improvements.
Elliott Norton has set a best lap time of 1:16.115 so far.
As the session progresses, Elliott Norton is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Dominic's last lap was a 1:15.996, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Chris just clocked 1:24.469. Can they improve on this lap? Well, that is not good. Bodkin has crashed into the barriers.
Sucks to be them.
Now several laps into the session, Chris Stokes looks to refine their line and timing. Max's last lap was a 1:15.816, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Dominic Fovag has set a best lap time of 1:15.065 so far. Nigel just clocked 1:15.536. Can they improve on this lap? Now several laps into the session, Jack Betting looks to refine their line and timing. Rich's last lap was a 1:15.554, aiming to shave off some seconds here.
Rich is really starting to push now, analysing every sector for potential improvements.
Phil Bodkin has set a best lap time of 1:20.429 so far.
As the session progresses, Phil Bodkin is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Now several laps into the session, Greg Sabo looks to refine their line and timing. Rich's last lap was a 1:15.814, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Stokes just clocked 3:29.929. Can they improve on this lap? It looks like Bottas is caught up in a significant incident. Phil Bodkin has set a best lap time of 1:20.429 so far.
Phil is really starting to push now, analysing every sector for potential improvements.
The mid-table bandit is going well.
If he gets too far up the order, he'll get a nosebleed.
Here's Dominic Fovard weaving through traffic.
I hear he uses socks for dry.
A big impact for Kosic.
Thata Euro S the way she goes.
Now several laps into the session, Jack Betting looks to refine their line and timing.
As the session progresses, Jack Bedding is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Lindo's Isuzu Bellett GTR.
That's gonna hurt in the morning.
Bart's last lap was a 13:22.055, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Some say he has no face, and that he's confused by stairs. All we know is, he's called the Kiwi. Jack Betting just clocked 1:15.150. Can they improve on this lap? Now several laps into the session, Bart van der Sande looks to refine their line and timing.
Bart is really starting to push now, analysing every sector for potential improvements.
You know, John took home the VVS Driver Championship last year, so I'm sure he'll be working hard to protect his title.
Wasn't that only because he attended more events than anyone else?
That's true, but let's let him dream.
Oh, ouch!
Elliott's last lap was a 3:23.437, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Elliott Norton has set a best lap time of 1:16.115 so far. Get ready for some high-octane action, as the drivers take on the challenge of qualifying at Knutstorp.
This is where champions are made, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
Daniel Kosic is on their outlap.
It's a delicate balance between taking it easy and pushing hard. Let's see how Daniel Kosic handles it.
That's a big accident. Hopefully Snapes is okay.
At least they've not taken anyone else out.
This is where the mental game comes into play. Walters is taking their time to prepare for their qualifying run. It's all about strategy in these early moments. Elliott Norton is taking their time to prepare for their qualifying run and get everything just right.
These are the moments that really matter. Let's see if Norton can deliver.
Contact between Van der Sande and Mac McFarker. You can feel the tension building. Constable Berry is out on track and getting ready to push for their qualifying time. Daddy Dave has completed their outlap. Wow, look at Nigel go. They're really turning on the jets in the knockoff. Nigel has completed their first flying lap in 1:15.822. It's clear that Lord Farquhar is on a mission. Mac has just completed a lap in 1:15.815. Let's see if they can improve on the time further. The pressure is on in this qualifying session, but Sten Wallstrom has just completed that lap in 1:15.820. Their best lap so far is 1:15.820, putting them in P9. Will they be able to hold on to that spot? It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Stokes is nailing both. Stokes has completed their first flying lap in 1:14.410. James Allen is on their first flying lap.
Absolutely. James is showing the world what they're made of.
I think I just saw a blur fly by. Oh wait, that's just Sten Wallstrom going at lightning speed.
Looks like Sten Wallstrom is really cooking with gas out there today.
Wallstrom has some work to do as that 1:15.142 is only good enough for 11th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure they can improve further on that.
Wow, look at Norton go. They're really turning on the jets in this qualifying session.
It's certainly exciting to watch. But let's not forget, the goal is to secure a good starting position for the race.
Impressive work from Chris Stokes, who has claimed third on the grid. Now, they need to maintain their composure and push for an even better starting position. And there goes David Constable Berry, currently in position 10. They've shown great skill and consistency so far, but with a few minutes left, there's still time to improve their result. Constable Berry has some work to do as that 1:14.595 is only good enough for 8th.
There's still more time to be had, but I dunno if they're going to find it before the session is over.
Not the ideal start for Sabo in this qualifying session. Currently in 13th, Greg Sabo has some work to do as that 1:15.211 is only good enough for 13th. It's been a challenging session for Elliott Norton. They're currently languishing in 11th position, which is not where they had envisioned themselves. But in motorsport, anything can happen, and Elliott Norton has just completed a lap in 1:14.460. Let's see if they can improve on the time further. Disappointing performance from Nigel in this qualifying session. Currently in 15th position, Walters has some work to do as that 1:14.747 is only good enough for 12th. A disappointing performance from Norton has picked up some damage from that contact.
Show that barrier who's boss.
Incredible drive by Elliott Norton so far, earning him 5th on the grid. However, the competition is fierce. Will they be able to find that extra edge to move up? Daniel has secured a respectable 9th in the qualifying session. Can they capitalize on this position and use it as a launching pad for us? As Sten completes their outlap, they will be hoping they have given themselves enough space on track to fully attack for their first flying lap. Sky, the drivers are lined up and ready. Should we get it on?
Yes, Hal. We should definitely get it on.
Pole position, a prime spot for Bart van der Sande to attack. As the drivers prepare to take off, John Astrup sits in second place on the starting grid.
They are in a good place to mount a good challenge come the first corner.
The third position is occupied by Rich Snape.
Rich will be taking no prisoners today.
At fourth, we have the one and only Chris Stokes. Elliot Norton is holding down the fort in fifth place,
putting that Isuzu Bellett GTR into prime position for the race.
Jimmy Lindo is lining up sixth.
Who knows? They could be the dark horse that steals the show.
On the seventh grid slot we have James Allen. Starting from 8th on the grid is a good position for Dominic Fauvargue to launch an attack.
Expect some battling with Daniel Kosick.
The 9th starting position belongs to Daniel Kosic, who will be looking to make up ground early on.
Kosick is going to show us something special, I'm sure of it.
From the middle of the pack, we have David Constable-Berry in 10th place on the starting grid. Starting from 11th on the grid is not ideal for Jack Betting, but they're a fighter.
Jack has been looking strong all week, expect big things.
Starting from 12th on the grid is a tough ask for Nigel Walters, but they're up for the challenge.
Walters won't be too disappointed with 12th.
Sten Wallstrom has some work to do from 13th on the grid, but they're not out of the race yet.
The B-class driver will want to move forwards from here.
Greg Sabo has qualified 14th. Mac McFarker will need to be on top of their game starting from 15th on the grid. Phil Bodkin is placed in 16th. And they're off, with drivers now facing the unpredictability of the opening lap. With so many cars close together, the risk of an early accident is real.
These first moments can set the tone for the rest of the race. It's all about keeping a clear head and making smart decisions.
It's brilliant to see such a full grid here today. A little bit of contact between David Constable-Berry and Jimmy Lindo.
Isn't that classed as rubbing?
As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race. Does Jack Betting know this isn't a one-lap race?
Mistakes so near the start are going to have an impact for the whole race.
Having started in 15, McFarka will be looking to establish themselves in this race.
It's always intense racing here at Knutstorp. Hold on to your hats, folks.
As the drivers get this race underway, there has been a crash. Mac has come together with Nigel. These early salvos will shape the outcome of this race.
What a beautiful day for racing here at Knutstorp. This is going to be good to watch.
Great driving from Greg Sabo, who has just gained a place and moved up to 13th. A brilliant maneuver from Sabo, who has just moved up the field.
Impressive. Sabo is really showing their skill and determination out there.
The gap between Chris in 12th and David Constable-Berry remains over a second, but Chris is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close the gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 10 minutes? It's not looking good for Chris. They are still behind David and the gap is increasing. They are gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around. And Baldylocks has just won the place from David Constable-Berry. The tension is palpable. Who will come out on top in this epic showdown? John and Bart van der Sande seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport. The race is really heating up. Chris is hunting down Constable-Berry with everything they've got.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Baldylocks is really walking that tightrope.
Contact between McFarka and Greg Sabo. John wants to find a way around Snapes. It seems like the Kiwi is struggling. They are not able to maintain their pace. A great moment for John, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
Yes. Astrop is driving with real precision, and it's paying off.
This is what racing is all about. Two fierce competitors pushing each other to the limit. Superb driving from David Constable-Berry, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. There has been a crash. Elliott has come together with Daniel Cox's. Walters has the pedal to the metal chasing Daddy Dave.
To achieve anything in this game, you must be prepared to dabble in the boundary of disaster.
The gap between Nigel and Constable-Berry is widening. It's now up to 0.5 seconds.
Nigel Walters is really going to need to push in Gryden to try and gain some ground on David before they disappear into the sunset.
Greg Sabo is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a tightrope between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play. Will Greg Sabo be able to make a move and pass Mac McFarka?
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled as they push for every last bit of speed. Elliott Norton and Jack Betting seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport.
It's not the worst accident I've seen, but I don't think those two will be friends after that.
Rich is running 5th. They are trying to catch Daniel Cox's. It's not going to plan for Snapes. They are still behind Košić and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. DCB could be looking for a way up the inside of Sabo. The best laid plans of mice and men are sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for David right now as they are contact between Dominic Fauvargue and Phil Bodkin. This is where the race gets really interesting. Stokes is closing in on knockoff Nigel.
I think they are going to take them.
It looks like Walters is pulling away from Chris Stokes. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Venesta efter Haar-Ernalen. It may seem like Nigel Walters is far behind, but Constable Berry can't afford to let their guard down. One mistake could give Nigel Walters an opening to catch up.
Absolutely right, Hal, and Nigel Walters knows that too. They have to keep driving at their best if they want to take advantage of any opportunity that comes their way.
Impressive driving from David, who has managed to extend their lead over knockoff Nigel. They are walking away at this point. Does knockoff Nigel have anything in reserve? The crowd is on tender hooks as Nigel Walters in 11th chases after David Constable Berry. The gap is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Can Nigel Walters find a way to catch up?
Absolutely. Walters in 11th will need to be.
Holy moly! That is some serious contact between Sabo and Mac McFarker. Looks like David is really pushing it to the limit. They're taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about finding the right balance between speed and control. That driver is really pushing the limits.
That's a big collision between cars. It's a tense battle for position between Nigel in 11th and Jimmy Lindo in 12th. Nigel is keeping Jimmy Lindo at bay with a gap of 0.1 seconds. And Nigel has just lost the place to Jimmy Lindo. This is a tough break for Walters. They've just lost P12 to Jimmy Lindo and they have their work cut out for them now.
They've been focusing so hard on maintaining their position, and now they've slipped back.
There has been a crash. Stokes has come together with Nigel Walters. The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this. Jimmy Lindo is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Greg at the moment. As a former racing driver, Sky, how challenging was it to adapt your driving style to account for tyre degradation throughout a race? Lindo and Chris Stokes seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport.
These drivers need to calm things down.
Dominic is giving it their all as they chase down Bodkin in P15. Big gains for Dominic as they move up the field, leaving Phil Bodkin behind.
Go, go, go. That's what we want to see.
It's neck and neck. The closest battle we've seen in a while.
As an experienced driver, I can tell you that Mac must be laser-focused on David Constable Berry's every move.
A little bit of contact between David Constable Berry and Mac McFarker. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Košić trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Jack Betting. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can Daniel Košić close in enough to mount a challenge? It's not looking good for Daniel Košić. They are still behind Jack Betting and the gap is increasing. They are going to need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around. During your racing career, Sky, did you have any specific techniques to regain concentration if you felt it slipping?
Yes, Hal, I had a few techniques. One was to take a couple of deep breaths and briefly reset my focus. Another was to use a specific keyword or phrase as a mental trigger to refocus my mind on the task at hand.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Chris Stokes, who is currently in P12. But Jimmy Lindo is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Chris Stokes. The gap between Goldilocks and Lindo is widening. It's now up to 0.6 seconds. The tension is building as Walters trails behind Chris Stokes. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Can Chris Stokes hold on, or will Nigel Walters? Contact between Chris Stokes and Jimmy Lindo.
That will be one for the stewards to have a look at.
Things are heating up as Nigel tries to close the gap to Stokes. The gap between Walters and Chris Stokes is growing. It's now up to 0.9 seconds. We've got an edge-of-your-seat battle between Lindo in 11th and Chris in 12th, with just 0.1 seconds between them. Heartbreak for Lindo, as they slip down the field.
Sucks to be them, Hal.
It's a brilliant day for racing, and the drivers are putting on a show.
Absolutely. What a great race we are witnessing today. These drivers are giving it their all, and it's a thrill to watch them compete at this level.
They're really pushing themselves and their machines to the limit, and it's paying off with some incredible driving.
It's a pleasure to be here today, Hal. You really can't beat the excitement of a good race, especially one as competitive as this.
The battle for 14 is heating up as Sten tries to catch Dominic Fauvargue in P14.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Sten Wallstrom should use slipstreaming to their advantage and close the gap to Dominic Fauvargue.
It's not going to plan for Sten Wallstrom. They are still behind Dominic and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. No room for error here. Kosic is breathing down the neck of Jack, waiting for the perfect chance to make their move.
Daniel Coxis is following Jack Senna so closely, they could start charging them rent for occupying the same space on the track.
It looks like Jack is pulling away from Kosic. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through tar unknown currency ND Stifton. The excitement is palpable. This is going to be a race for the ages.
The drivers are executing their strategies to perfection, making the most of every opportunity. This is what top-level racing is all about.
It's like Van der Sande has saved all their energy for this final stretch. There has been a crash. Jack has come together with Kosic. It's looking good for Bart van der Sande, sitting in first.
Definitely, Hal. But they can't afford to get complacent. They have to keep pushing hard to stay in the game.
And there it is. Van der Sande has completed the race in first place, setting a blistering pace that none of the other drivers could match.
You could feel
a little bit of contact between Sabo and Chris Stokes.
It's not the worst accident I've seen, but I don't think those two will be friends after that.
Impressive second-place finish for John.
Impressive performance. They pushed themselves to the limit for a fantastic second-place finish.
Excellent work from James Allen to secure third place on the podium.
What a drive. Well-deserved spot on the podium with that performance.
With Rich Snape, Jack Betting, Daniel Coxis, and Elliot Norton in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. David Constable-Berry, Mac McFarker, Chris Stokes, and Nigel Walters brings home 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. Greg Sabo, Jimmy Lindo, Dominic Fauvargue, and Sten Wallstrom take 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. Phil Bodkin in 16th. Well, that is not good. Kosic has crashed into the barriers.
Sucks to be them.
Sky, the drivers are lined up and ready. Should we get it on?
Yes, Hal. We should definitely get it on.
Phil Bodkin starts from the best spot, pole position.
Phil Bodkin must strategize carefully to maintain the lead.
The second position belongs to Sten Wallström. And in third place, we have Dominic Fauvargue. In the fourth position, we have Jimmy Lindo ready to tackle the race ahead. Taking the fifth spot is Greg Sabo.
Could we see a podium result from Sabo?
Nigel Walters is going to be starting from sixth. Lining up in seventh is Chris Stokes. Starting from the eighth position, Mac McFarker will need to navigate through the field to challenge for the win. Our ninth place starter, David Constable-Berry, is a driver who knows how to make up ground on the track. In the middle of the pack, we have Elliot Norton starting from the 10th position on the grid.
But they can't afford to be complacent. This is race day, after all.
Starting from 11th on the grid is a decent position for Daniel Kosic, all things considered.
The Hungarian driver will want to show what they're made of today.
Starting from 12th on the grid is a bit of a mixed bag for Jack Betting.
Where can Bedding put that Bellett?
Rich Snape is in a solid position starting from 13th on the grid.
Are the standards tyres the way to go?
James Allen may not be starting from pole, but they're still in with a shot. John Astrop is lining up 15th. Sitting in 16th, it's Bart van der Sande.
Where will the A-class driver finish?
And we're off. As the race begins, drivers must be wary of aggressive moves that can lead to trouble on the first lap.
These opening moments can make or break a driver's race. Strategy and skill are key to navigating this intense start.
There's some intense battling throughout the field as everyone is looking to get off to a good start. Does Knockoff Nigel know this isn't a one-lap race? This is going to be one hell of a race, I can already feel it.
Let's hope they all brought their A-games today.
The tension is palpable here, no one will want to make a... There has been a crash, Greg Sabo has come together with Chris. Looks like Jack took a page from the Tortoises playbook, but I'm not sure slow and steady wins this race. A little bit of contact between Wallström and Daniel Coxis. Is there a better sight than a field of elite racing drivers battling for position?
All the drivers will be jostling for the best position, Hal. Some of them may not make it to the second lap in one piece.
There has been a crash, McFarker has come together with Kosic.
Isn't that classed as rubbing?
It's a solid performance from Jack Betting at the moment. They're holding their position and not getting too caught up in battles around them.
That's the mark of a good driver. Jack Senna is staying focused on their own race and not getting distracted.
Fantastic move from Jack, who has... It looks like Constable-Berry is caught up in a significant incident. The action is non-stop as John shadows James Allen through every twist and turn, determined to claim 7th.
This is where the mental game comes into play. Who will keep their cool under pressure? The Kiwi or James Allen? It's anyone's race.
It's looking good for Astrop, who has gained places and put some distance between themselves and James Allen.
Absolutely, Hal. But there's still a long way to go in this race, and the Kiwi can't afford to get complacent. They have to keep driving with intensity and focus.
Bodkin and John Astrop seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport. The pressure is really on for Bart van der Sande in ninth as Jack Betting is closing in. This is where experience and skill really count.
Yeah, I really can't see them holding on to this place for much longer.
What a move. Van der Sande has moved up to 8th. You know, Sky, during a long race like this, how easy is it for a driver to experience a lapse in concentration?
It can be quite easy, Hal. With so many factors to consider and the intense concentration required, even the most experienced.
There has been a crash. Bodkin has come together with Bart van der Sande.
These drivers need to calm things down.
This is what it's all about, folks. James is in hot pursuit of Jack, who's just trying to stay ahead.
James Allen is so close to Jack Betting that if this were a dance floor, they'd be doing the tango.
The best laid plans of mice and men are Sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Allen right now as they are struggling to keep up with Betting. We are used to seeing some hard-fought but clean racing here at Virtual Velocity. I'm expecting to see nothing different here today as this race unfolds. It looks like Jack Senna is all over Bodkin. I think they are going to press him through Kavar unknown currency Kloposton and try and press for a mistake. That's a big collision between cars. Every move counts now as the mid-table bandit works to reel in Stokes and overtake for P14.
Can Snape close the 0.3 second gap and make a pass?
The mid-table bandit is on a charge. Their split time shows they have upped their pace. They're going side by side, door handle to door handle. This is as close as it gets, folks. Who will have the courage to outbrake the others?
I couldn't agree more, Hal. The proximity of these cars is incredible. The precision and trust these drivers have in each other is truly remarkable.
The battle is a little bit of contact between John Astrop and Elliot Norton.
That could have been much worse.
Seems like McFarker is getting in range of John. Tough break for McFarker, who has just lost a position. I love being here at Knutstorp. What an awesome place to be witnessing these titans of the track battle it out.
Indeed, Hal, what a magnificent sight and sound. I love listening to the roar of these engines. Let's just listen for a moment.
The pursuit is on. Bart van der Sande is closing the gap on the Kiwi, determined to claim P5.
You can see that car bouncing around as they ride the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
Van der Sande is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Astrop at the moment.
Bart needs to pick up the pace for sure, but I don't think they have it in them.
Oh, the Lindo is in trouble.
They're coming up fast on knockoff Nigel and there's no way they're going to be able to slow down in time.
Looks like someone needs to tell Lindoff that this isn't a demolition derby. That kind of driving just won't cut it at this level.
No, it certainly doesn't. It's almost Lindo thinks they're playing a video game or something. That's just not how you drive on this circuit.
Oh dear, Jimmy Lindo has dropped down to 16th. Look at that, the Kiwi is hot on the tail of Elliot.
The mental game is just as important here. The Kiwi must keep their cool while putting pressure on Elliot Norton.
It's a tale of two drivers right now, with John Astrop gaining places and Elliot Norton losing them. A setback for John Astrop, who has just been passed. This is a thrilling battle as Allen edges closer to Jack Senna in their fight for P8.
This is where every inch counts.
Contact between Baldylocks and Nigel Walters.
That will be one for the stewards to have a look at.
Rich Snape wants to get into Stokes' slipstream.
And they are poised to capitalize on any mistake. But who's going to make that mistake first?
Great driving from Rich. There has been a crash. Jack betting has come together with McFarker. Phil is on a mission, chasing Rich, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
With just 0.3 seconds between them, will Fat Dog Phil be able to keep up the pace and make a pass?
Fat Dog Phil appears to be losing ground on Rich Snape. They will need to pick up the pace a bit as they head into Gryden and see if they can get a good exit and gain some ground.
This is a frustrating situation for Phil Bodkin, but they can't give up just yet. They need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Rich.
Oh, this is getting intense. Bart and John Astrop seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport. The race is really heating up. James Allen is hunting down betting with everything they've got.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Who will have the speed and skill to come out on top?
It's not looking good for Allen. They are still behind Jack Senna and the gap is increasing. They are gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around. Looks like we've had a few incidents out there.
Someone forgot to take the driving lessons. They're making more U-turns than a confused tourist.
Holy moly. That is some serious contact between Sten Wallstrom and Jimmy Lindo.
I hope they can both continue and make it to the end.
Astrop is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a tightrope between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play. One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. John Astrop needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
The intensity is off the charts as Bart van der Sande hounds Elliot Norton, both drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit. A little bit of contact between Bart van der Sande and John Astrop. This is where the race gets really interesting. Astrop is closing in on van der Sande.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. John Astrop has got to stay patient and wait for Bart van der Sande to make a mistake.
John Astrop is not able to keep their pace consistent. So far they are 0.65 seconds down.
Can John Astrop refocus and start putting in the lap times we know they're capable of?
That's a big collision between cars.
That is not a pretty sight.
Things are heating up as Nigel tries to close the gap to David Constable Berry. The gap between Walters and David is growing. It's now up to 0.7 seconds.
It's not over yet, but Nigel Walters should get a move on if they want to catch up to David Constable Berry.
A great moment for knockoff Nigel, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings. Chris Stokes appears to be trying to find a way round Walters that could make a move on them in tar unknown currency Andy Stifton. It's not going to plan for Chris Stokes. They are still behind knockoff Nigel and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. There has been a crash. Bart van der Sande has come together with Astrop. It looks like Jack is in control. They're ahead of James Allen by over a second, and it doesn't look like they're going to be challenged anytime soon.
James Allen is certainly pushing all they can, but the gap might just be too much. Unless Jack makes a mistake, it looks like they'll hold on to 7th. A commanding performance from Jack, who has increased their lead over Allen, putting them firmly in their rear-view mirrors.
As they speed through tar unknown currency ND Stifton, Van der Sande is relentlessly pursuing Elliot Norton in a high-stakes battle for position. Disappointing for Bart van der Sande, they now find themselves in 6th. Contact between Van der Sande and John Astrup. The battle for 12 is heating up as Mac McFarker tries to catch Snapes in P12.
The gap between them is now just over 0.4 seconds. Who will come out on top?
It looks like Rich Snape is pulling away from Mac McFarker. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Gryden. You can feel the tension in the air.
The drivers are all focused, putting everything on the line for a chance at victory, pushing themselves and their machines to the limit.
And let's not forget about the incredible machines themselves.
Absolutely. It's amazing to think about the kind of engineering and innovation that goes into making these vehicles. But it all comes down to the drivers, who have to be able to handle the power and speed. It's going to be thrilling seeing how this race turns out.
This is where legends are made. Which driver will rise to the occasion and claim victory? As we come into the final moments of this epic race, Dominic is a little bit of contact between John Astrup and Bart van der Sande. It's all about consistency for Dom, who is currently first. Holy moly! That is some serious contact between Jack and James Allen. A solid performance from Fauvargue, who is holding down first.
That's right. They can't afford to make any mistakes or let up in their performance. Every point counts in this championship.
The leader has just finished the race. A fantastic result for Dom. Some might say that second place is the first loser, but Daniel Coxis certainly doesn't see it that way. They put in a phenomenal effort and should be proud of their impressive result.
Brilliant! Daniel Coxis showed great skill and determination to take second place.
That was an outstanding performance from Sabo. They fought hard and took the final spot on the podium. 4th, 5th, 6th, Jimmy has picked up some damage from that contact.
Show that barrier who's boss.
In 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, it's Bart van der Sande, David Constable-Berry, Nigel Walters, and Chris Stokes. Coming in 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th we have Rich Snape, Mac McFarker, Jimmy Lindo, and Sten Wallstrom. Finishing 16th is Phil Bodkin. A big impact for Daniel Coxis. This is Hal, your VVS commentator bot. Bring it on. James Allen is on their practice outlap, warming up the tyres.
This outlap is crucial for setting up the car's systems and getting a feel for the track.
David Constable Berry just clocked 1:14.398. Can they improve on this lap?
David is really starting to push now, analysing every sector for potential improvements.
It's a lovely day for racing here at Knutstorp as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Some say he has no face, and that he's confused by stairs. All we know is, he's called the Kiwi. I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Allen's Isuzu.
Sucks to be them.
You know, John took home the VVS Driver Championship last year, so I'm sure he'll be working hard to protect his title.
Wasn't that only because he attended more events than anyone else?
That's true, but let's let him dream.
Oh, ouch!
Now several laps into the session, David Constable Berry looks to refine their line and timing. James Allen begins their outlap, feeling out the track conditions. Bart van der Sande is on their practice outlap, warming up the tyres. Sten Wallström has set a best lap time of 1:14.964 so far. Well, that is not good. Daddy Dave has crashed into the barriers.
Varta Euro S the way she goes.
David Constable Berry just clocked 1:13.908. Can they improve on this lap? Sten's last lap was a 1:14.964, aiming to shave off some seconds here. It's a lovely day for racing here at Knutstorp as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Now several laps into the session, Sten Wallström looks to refine their line and timing.
As the session progresses, Sten Wallström is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Sten Wallström has set a best lap time of 1:14.964 so far. Here we go, folks. The atmosphere is electric as the drivers prepare to unleash their machines on the track at Knutstorp for the qualifying session.
The pressure is on to set the fastest lap times, and the tension in the air is palpable.
You can feel the tension building. The Kiwi is out on track and getting ready to push for their qualifying time.
It's a delicate balance between taking it easy and pushing hard. Let's see how the Kiwi handles it.
The adrenaline is pumping. Elliot Norton is on their outlap, warming up the tires and getting ready to put in a fast lap time.
It's all about finding that balance between staying calm and focused, while also pushing the limits.
It's clear that Baldilocks is on a mission in this qualifying session. They're pushing their car to the limit.
Let's see if they can put a good marker down.
Chris has completed their first flying lap in 1:14.138. It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Jack is nailing, but Jack has just completed a lap in 1:14.376. Let's see if they can improve on the time further. Nigel Walters is on their first flying lap. Walters has just completed that lap in 1:14.730. Their best lap so far is 1:14.730, putting them in P5. Will they be able to hold on to that spot? I think I just saw a blur flyby. Oh wait, that's just Chris Stokes going at lightning speed.
Looks like Chris Stokes is really cooking with gas out there today.
Time to bring out the marshmallows and let's toast some fuel. That's a big accident. Hopefully Snape is okay.
That's gonna hurt in the morning.
I don't know about you, but I think Stokes might have a secret rocket booster hidden in their car. They're just that fast. Chris Stokes will be happy having put themselves into 4th in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for them to improve further on that. Sometimes trying too hard makes you slower. They need to drive smooth and smart.
The pressure is on in this qualifying session, but Jimmy Lindo is rising to the occasion. Jimmy Lindo has completed their first flying lap in 1:14.883. Wow, look at Bodkin go. They're really turning on the jets in this qualifying session. Phil has just completed a lap in 1:17.057. Let's see if they can improve on the time further. It's an impressive showing by Baldilocks, currently in 6th. They've showcased their talent, but will they be able to find those crucial extra tenths of a second to climb higher? Chris will be happy having put themselves into 2nd in this qualifying session. Impressive display by Elliot Norton, currently sitting in position 10. They've set a competitive time, but the question remains whether they can push even harder to secure a better starting position.
Great analysis, Hal. Norton has shown excellent pace to secure 10th. Now, question is, can use this track position to their advantage.
Norton has just completed that lap in 1:14.135. Their best lap so far is 1:14.135. Putting them in P7. Will they be able to hold on to that spot? I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Lindo's Bellett.
At least they've not taken anyone else out.
Fovag has put in a great effort and currently holds 8th. With the session winding down, can they unleash their full potential and improve their starting position? It hasn't been the best qualifying session for Wallstrom so far. They find themselves in 13th position, which is not where they had hoped. Sten has some work to do as that 1:42.385 is only good enough for 13th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure they can improve further on that.
Wallstrom has completed their outlap. Sky, the drivers are lined up and ready. Should we get it on?
Yes, Hal. We should definitely get it on.
James Allen leads from pole position.
In pole at virtual velocity, anything can happen.
In the 2nd position, we have John Astrop ready to tackle the race ahead. Chris Stokes will begin the race from the 3rd spot on the starting grid. Starting just behind the front runners in 4th place is the determined driver, Bart van der Sande.
Another good start for the Dutch driver.
As the drivers prepare to take off, Nigel Walters sits in 5th place on the starting grid.
It's like they're on the outside looking in. Can they make their way to the front of the pack?
Sitting in 6th is David Constable-Berry.
Starting on the standards tyres.
Starting from 7th on the grid is a good position for Elliot Norton to launch an attack. Dominic Fauvargue has qualified 8th. From the middle of the pack, we have Daniel Kosic in 9th place on the starting grid. Jack Betting is 10th. Starting from 11th on the grid is a decent position for Jimmy Lindo, all things considered.
But they've got the skills to make something happen.
Greg Sabo will need to be on top of their game starting from 12th on the grid. Sten Wallstrom may have a bit of work to do starting from 13th on the grid. Rich Snape is in a solid position starting from 14th on the grid.
We've seen great results from here. What has Rich got in store for us?
Starting from 15th on the grid is a tough ask for Phil Bodkin, but they're up for the challenge. The lights are out and it's go time.
Precision is everything during these initial stages. One wrong move can cost them valuable time or even force them out of the race.
As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race.
It's always intense racing here at Knutstorp. Hold on to your hats, folks.
The drivers are jockeying for position. Allen will be looking to get off to a good start and consolidate their position. There has been a crash. Norton has come together with Dominic Fauvargue. It's brilliant to see such a full grid here today. The stewards will be hoping that there aren't too many incidents for them to pick over when the dust settles on this one.
What a beautiful day for racing here at Knutstorp. This is going to be good to watch.
There's not much to report on from Elliot Norton at the moment. They're just keeping their head down and putting in consistent laps.
Consistency is key in racing. Elliot just needs to keep doing what they're doing and wait for opportunities to present themselves.
The battle for 3 is heating up as Bart van der Sande tries to catch Stokes in P3. The gap between Bart van der Sande and Chris Stokes is growing. It's now up to 0.5 seconds. This is a thrilling battle as Stokes edges closer to James Allen in their fight for P2. The best laid plans of mice and men have sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Chris right now as they are struggling to keep up with James. Bart van der Sande is on a mission, chasing Chris Stokes who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Who will have the speed and skill to come out on top?
Bard is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Goldilocks at the moment. I think we just got time for a quick shout out to our human creators, Dave, Andy, John and Nigel, who have put so much effort into making this possible.
Yes, it's been a real thrill ride, and I for one can't wait to see what's coming next.
Apparently we are going to be announcing crashes and incidents soon. Let's hope they get the logic right. This is where the race gets really interesting. Košić is closing in on David Constable Berry. The gap between Košić and DCB is getting smaller.
Exactly what Daniel needed. They can't afford to lose any more ground to David Constable Berry.
You know, Sky, I've always wondered, how do racing drivers stay so cool and collected under such immense pressure?
Well, how? It comes down to mental strength and training. Drivers often work with sports psychologists and practice techniques like meditation and visualization to help them stay calm and focused during high-pressure situations.
Looks like Bard is really pushing it to the limit. They're taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about finding the right balance between speed and control.
It looks like we might get a battle between Bart van der Sande and Goldilocks.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. Both drivers will need to stay calm and focused if they want to come out on top.
This race is getting even more intense. The drivers are pushing each other to the limit.
It's like they're playing a game of chicken, but with cars. And the winner gets to take home the checkered flag and bragging rights.
Ha ha, that's one way to put it. These drivers have to be in top physical and mental shape to compete at this level.
It's like they're training for the Olympics. And like you said, the mental fortitude required to stay focused and alert for the entire race is wild.
I think I need a nap just watching them. It's a game of inches now as betting tails Dominic closely, ready to capitalize on any mistake.
If Jack isn't careful, they might end up turning this high-speed chase into a synchronized spinning routine, and trust me, that's not a crowd pleaser.
It seems like Jack Senna is struggling. They are not able to maintain their pace.
Can Jack refocus and start putting in the lap times we know they're capable of?
That's a big collision between cars. Oh, this is getting intense. Norton is just a few car lengths behind Jack. Great driving from Elliot Norton, who has just gained a place and moved up to 9th. Holy moly, that is some serious contact between Jack Senna and Dominic Fauvargue. The pursuit is on. Chris is closing the gap on Allen, determined to claim P2. Goldilocks is not able to keep their pace consistent. So far they are 0.45 seconds down. Elliot is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a tightrope between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play.
It's not looking good for Elliot Norton. They are still behind Jack Betting and the gap is increasing. They are going to need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
It's not over yet, but Norton should get a move on if they want to catch up to Jack.
A strong showing from Košić, who is currently 9th.
Yes, but they have to keep their focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
Sky, look at this. Greg Sabo is closing in on Daniel. It looks like Norton is caught up in a significant incident.
That will be one for the stewards to have a look at.
The gap between Goldilocks and third and James Allen remains over a second, but Goldilocks is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close the gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 3 minutes?
It's moments like these that make motorsport so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Goldilocks in third determined to catch up. But we know James Allen isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Goldilocks is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as they can close that gap.
The race is heating up as Norton in 8th closes in on Jack Betting. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they're going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight.
Absolutely. Norton in 8th will need to be patient and carefully work to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as they can't afford to take unnecessary risks and risk an off or damaging their car. Let's see if they have what it takes to get back into the game here.
Tough break for Elliot Norton, who has just lost a position.
That's got to be frustrating. But Elliot Norton is a skilled driver, and they have what it takes to battle their way back up the field.
A brilliant maneuver from Elliot Norton, who has just moved up the field.
Yes, Norton is driving with real precision, and it's paying off.
The tension is building as Košić trails behind Elliot Norton. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Can Elliot Norton hold on, or will Daniel Košić be able to close them down? It seems like Košić has got the bit between their teeth, improving on Elliot Norton's lap time there. The track conditions are looking good here today. Hold up, braking info. What a move. Daniel has moved up to 8th.
You can't argue with results like that. Košić is really making their mark in this race.
Jimmy Lindo is giving it their all as they chase down Sabo in P10. The gap between Jimmy Lindo and Greg is widening. It's now up to 0.4 seconds. The race is really heating up. Bart van der Sande is hunting down Chris with everything they've got.
It's a game of strategy now as Bart van der Sande hunts down Chris. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. It's not going to plan for Bart van der Sande. They are still behind Chris and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. This is a tough situation for van der Sande. They need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
Sky, what's the impact of tyre degradation on race strategy? How does it affect a driver's approach to the race?
Tyre degradation plays a crucial role in race strategy. How? Teams and drivers have to consider the optimal time to pit for fresh tyres and adjust their race pace to balance speed with tyre conservation. It adds another layer of complexity to the racing challenge.
Even though Bart van der Sande is a fair way behind Stokes, they can't afford to let their guard down. Stokes is still vulnerable to mistakes. Things are starting to get tense as Bart van der Sande manages to close the gap to Chris. It's now down to 0.6 seconds.
This is a critical moment in the race for Chris. They need to find some extra speed and stay ahead of van der Sande.
Things are heating up as Jimmy closes in on Greg Sabo. The gap between them is down to practically nothing.
As a former driver, I can tell you there's nothing quite like the adrenaline rush when you...
A little bit of contact between Jimmy Lindo and Greg Sabo.
It's not the worst accident I've seen, but I don't think those two will be friends after that.
Things are heating up as Van der Sande tries to close the gap to Stokes. This is where the true champions shine, and the Kiwi is certainly showing their class in the final sector. And there it is. John has completed the race in first place, setting a blistering pace that none of the other drivers could match. What a fantastic race from Alan, who brings it home in second place.
Impressive performance. They pushed themselves to the limit for a fantastic second place finish.
Impressive drive from Stokes to claim the final spot on the podium.
What a drive. Well-deserved spot on the podium with that performance.
Bart van der Sande, Nigel Walters, Dominic Fovard, and Jack Betting brings home 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Finishing 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th is Elliot Norton, Daniel Coxis, Greg Sabo, and Jimmy Lindo. With Sten Wallstrom, Rich Snape, and David Constable-Berry in David Constable-Berry has picked up some damage from that contact. Followed by Phil Bodkin in 15th. That's a big collision between cars. Well, that is not good. Kosic has crashed into the barriers. Sky, the drivers are lined up and ready. Should we get it on?
Yes, Hal. We should definitely get it on.
Pole position is an ideal outcome for Phil Bodkin.
Phil Bodkin must strategize carefully to maintain the lead.
It's David Constable-Berry, sitting comfortably in second. Taking off from the third grid slot is the skilled driver, Rich Snape.
A strong grid position, and they'll be expecting a solid result today.
And in the fourth position, it's none other than Sten Wallstrom. Coming in at fifth, we have Jimmy Lindo.
They are in a good place to mount a good challenge come the first corner.
Greg Sabo is placed in sixth.
But sometimes the underdog can surprise you. Let's see what they've got in the tank.
Daniel Kosic is lining up seventh.
Lining up in the mid-pack.
Lining up in eighth is Elliot Norton.
That Isuzu looks like it has some potential.
Jack Betting will be looking to gain ground quickly as they start from ninth on the grid. On the 10th grid slot we have Dominic Fauvarg. Starting from 11th on the grid is not ideal for Nigel Walters, but they're a fighter.
Where can Nigel finish today?
Bart van der Sande may not be starting from pole, but they're still in with a shot. Chris Stokes is going to be starting from 13th.
The B-class driver will want to move forwards from here.
James Allen has some work to do from 14th on the grid, but they're not out of the race yet.
They have the talent to make their way to the front of the pack.
John Astrop has got their work cut out for them starting from 15th on the grid.
The New Zealand driver will want to show what they're made of today.
The moment we've been waiting for has arrived. The green flag is waving and the race is on.
This is where the real action begins. The drivers will be jostling for position and trying to gain any advantage they can.
Absolutely. It's a crucial part of the race, and the drivers will need to be on top of it to make it through here unscathed.
The first sector is always a bit of a nail-biter.
There has been a crash. Jimmy Lindo has come together with Daniel. This is going to be one hell of a race, I can already feel it.
There are a few drivers with a point to prove, and a few with some grudges to bear. Will we see a clean race today?
A little bit of contact between DCB and Rich Snape. Terrible news for Elliot Norton, already losing places and the race is just only getting started. Seems like Norton was asleep at the wheel of their start, or at least they have been caught napping at the start.
Not the best of starts, but it happens. I expect Elliot Norton won't be there for long.
Does David know this isn't a one-lap race?
Mistakes so near the start are going to have an impact for the whole race.
Out of the gates, and Daniel is already turning heads, gaining positions quicker than the blink of an eye. It's a solid performance from Kosic at the moment. They're holding their position and not getting too caught up in battles around them. Contact between Elliot Norton and Chris Stokes. The adrenaline is pumping as Rich gets within striking distance of James in their race for ninth.
A misjudgment by either driver could result in a close encounter of the tyre barrier kind, and that's one handshake they'll want to avoid.
There has been a crash. Assetto has come together with Sabo. Dominic could be looking for a way up the inside of Walters.
If you're enjoying the racing, please remember to like and subscribe.
Big gains for Dominic as they move up the field, leaving Nigel Walters behind.
Absolutely. Dom is showing great pace and determination, but they can't get too confident. There are still plenty of challenges ahead.
It looks like Jimmy Lindo is pushing hard to catch up to Bart van der Sande. The gap is over a second, but Jimmy Lindo is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on Bart van der Sande? Lindo appears to be losing ground on Bart van der Sande. They will need to pick up the pace a bit as they head into unknown currency Andy Stifton and see a little bit of contact between Lindo and Dominic Fauvarg.
These drivers need to calm things down.
Seems like betting is getting in range of Daniel Cox's.
Rubbing is racing. Let's hope they don't rub it too hard.
The gap between betting and Daniel Cox's is growing. It's now up to 0.6 seconds. It looks like Bodkin is caught up in a significant incident. Every move counts now as Greg Sabo works to reel in John and overtake for P10.
That driver is really pushing the limits. They're riding the curves and pushing the car to its limits.
A top lap time there from Sabo, setting their fastest lap of the session so far. A great moment for Sabo, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings. The intensity is off the charts as Bart van der Sande hounds Lindo, both drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit.
Can they close up enough for a pass? I don't see it personally.
Lindo and Bart van der Sande seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport.
That will be one for the stewards to have a look at.
Things don't look to be going Jimmy Lindo's way, as already they are into the pits. This is what it's all about, folks. Greg Sabo is in hot pursuit of James Allen, who's just trying to stay ahead. Contact between Allen and Greg Sabo.
That could have been much worse.
John is looking for an opportunity to get round knock off Nigel.
To achieve anything in this game, you must be prepared to dabble in the boundary of disaster.
Superb driving from John, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
Amazing stuff. Focus and precision, what it's all about.
It's a close race between Kosic and Greg Sabo in 7th.
Should things go south between Kosic and Greg Sabo, you might witness a high-speed game of bumper cars, but trust me, it's way less fun with real race cars.
What a tight spot for Daniel Cox's. They have Nigel Walters right on their tail 0.2 seconds away, and Greg Sabo just inches away with a gap of 0.2 seconds. It's a true test of their racecraft.
I couldn't agree more. How? The gaps to the cars ahead and behind provide valuable information for Daniel. They need to assess the situation and use the gaps strategically to plan their moves.
As a former racing driver, Sky, how important is the relationship between a driver and their team during a race?
It's absolutely crucial. How? The team provides valuable information and support, helping the driver make the right decisions on track. A strong bond between the driver and the team can be the difference between winning and losing.
The pressure is on for Assetto as they try to catch up to Daniel Cox's. The Kiwi is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Kosic at the moment. You know, John took home the VVS Driver Championship last year, so I'm sure he'll be working hard to protect his title.
Wasn't that only because he attended more events than anyone else?
That's true, but let's let him dream. Braking update. Fantastic move from John Astrop, who has just gained a position.
That's what we like to see. The Kiwi is really showing their class today.
Chris Stokes is running fifth. They are trying to catch Fovard. Chris could be on a charge here. Sky, they have just put in a quicker lap than Dom. No room for error here. The Kiwi is breathing down the neck of Greg Sabo, waiting for the perfect chance to make their move. The best laid plans of mice and men are Sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Astrop right now as they are struggling to keep up with Greg Sabo.
This is where the mental toughness of John comes into play. They need to try push, even when things aren't going their way.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled as they push for every last bit of speed.
With just 0.4 seconds between them, will James Allen be able to keep up the pace and make a pass?
A brilliant maneuver from Allen, who has just moved up the field. Heartbreak for Allen as they slip down the field.
Yes, but they can't give up. There's still plenty of time left in this race, and Allen needs to push.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Daniel is closing in on Greg Sabo.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Kosick is really walking that tightrope.
And Daniel Coxis has just won the place from Greg Sabo.
Definitely. But there's still a long way to go in this race, and anything can happen.
Allen is on a mission, chasing Chris, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. The gap between James Allen and Chris Stokes is widening. It's now up to 0.6 seconds. The drivers are showing their mettle today. It's a privilege to witness their skill on this challenging track.
The stakes have never been higher. This is a battle of skill and nerves.
That's right. These drivers are really pushing themselves to the limit, and it's incredible to see the level of determination they're bringing to the track.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of courage to compete at this level, and these drivers have it in spades. Let's hope they can keep it up and give us a race to remember.
It's a battle of wheels out there, with Bart trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Jack Betting. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race?
That's right. Bart van der Sande in third knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But Jack Bedding is no slouch, and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will out there.
Great driving from Van der Sande, who has just gained a place and moved up to second.
Impressive. Bart van der Sande is really showing their skill and determination out there.
Disappointing for Van der Sande, they now find themselves in third. Oh my, John is hot on the tail of Fovard. As they come into high on a lane, I'm sure they may have a cheeky peek up the inside.
Astrop is following Dominic Fovard so closely, they could start charging them rent for occupying the same space on the track.
There has been a crash. Dom has come together with John.
These drivers need to calm things down.
Look at that, John is hot on the tail of Fovard.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Astrop wants to be careful not to overdo it.
A great pass for the Kiwi as they pick off other drivers and move up the field. Meanwhile, Dominic Fovard has lost ground.
Yes, but Astrop can't rest on their laurels. They have to keep pushing to consolidate their position.
This is what high-octane racing looks like. Daniel Coxis is breathing down the neck of Dom, not giving him any room to relax.
These two are putting on a masterclass in precision driving. Every turn, every acceleration, calculated to perfection.
It's not looking good for Daniel Coxes. They are still behind Dom and the gap is increasing. They are going to need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
This is a frustrating situation for Daniel Coxes, but they can't give up just yet. They need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Foval.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Van der Sande is chasing Betting in P2. Bart van der Sande has just put in a faster lap than Betting, so that's going to give them something to worry about.
The question is now, can Betting...
A little bit of contact between Koscic and Greg Sabo.
It's not the worst accident I've seen, but I don't think those two will be friends after that.
They're giving it everything they've got. It's a battle of nerves as they push the limits of adhesion, going wheel to wheel in a thrilling display of racing prowess. As we come into the final moments of this epic race, DCB is in the lead. Can they stay calm and bring home the bacon?
You got this. Keep your cool.
What a win! This is a historic moment for David Constable Berry, who put on a masterclass in driving today. What a display of skill and precision.
You could feel the tension building throughout the race, but David Constable Berry remained focused and in control. That's what separates the winners from the pack.
Jack Betting takes second place with a fantastic race.
Intense race, but Jack held their nerve and earned a great second place.
What a race from Bart. They kept their cool and secured a well-earned third place on the podium. Taking 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th is Chris Stokes, James Allen, John Astrop and Dominic Fovark. 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th sees Nigel Walt. Holy moly! That is some serious contact between Fat Dog Phil and Sten Wallstrom. Sten Wallstrom and Phil Bodkin in 12th and 13th.